Week 6, everybody, and guess who's back from super hot Arizona and back to the cold? This Saturday workout occurred immediately after returning home from the airport. I had been on the plane for like 4.5 hours. So I'm not sure if it was that or just the fact that I am not used to working out outside of the morning hours, because this didn't go great, but at the same time, got it done. Wasn't horrible. And it did get me back on schedule, so I guess I can't complain too much. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I am so glad to be back in the cold. Maybe it's just, I wasn't out in Arizona long enough to really get accustomed to the heat again. I was only there for a couple days. But man, it was just uncomfortable, and so coming back to the cold, I was like, that's the stuff. And not only that, it happened to be the coldest day of the year. Saturday. And so the temperature in Arizona was mid 80s, and the low on Saturday night was something like 5. So what is that, like a 80-degree drop? I was like, yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Probably, like I always reference, growing up in Buffalo, where it's, you can go months up there without the temperature ever getting above freezing. I guess that's why I'm such a big fan of the cold. Although coming out of summer, it does take a little getting used to, but once you get used to it, it is great. And if you keep your house really cold, you can do fun things like try to see your breath in the house. I'm having too much fun with that. Yeah, so anyway, this week so far, because it's currently Monday when I'm doing this part of the voiceover, going well. I'm going to talk about my shoes in the next video, so that's a little spoiler alert. So just like at the beginning of Cycle 1, I put a cap on the daily maxes getting started here, because after taking a few days off and traveling and sleeping in crappy motel rooms, etc., didn't want to just come back and start trying to go all out, because that usually leads to bad things happening. So I've decided that the next test time period is going to be the weekend of March 26th, 27th, whatever that weekend is. And I have things planned out where if everything goes well, the daily maxes should be about 10 pounds heavier for the lower body lifts and about 5 to 7 pounds heavier for the upper body lifts, and hopefully that will translate to the same gains on the maxing. And before we fully say goodbye to Cycle 1, I'd like to cover just a couple of things from Cycle 1. And that is, I think I mentioned at some point that my prior front squat max was somewhere in the 140 to 150 range. I actually looked up in my workout logs. Looks like the most I did ever before that was 147.5, and I did that for 3 sets of 5. And as you know, we hit a solid 200 during Cycle 1, so yeah, that was definitely a monstrous PR in that regard. I also wanted to mention, when I did the squat of 300 at my max testing, when I put the weight down, the thing that went through my head was, man, sure hope that was deep enough, because I wasn't super sure if I had gotten all the way down. So I looked at the picture, and I'm actually happy with that, because it looks like the knee to the hip slope is down. So it certainly looks like my hips got below my knees, which is pretty much the standard. And the last thing I want to mention from Cycle 1 was, for those of you who watched the 20 sub challenge video, I was unbelievably sore after that day. And normally I don't get sore. So what that tells me is that there appears to be something going on that I am not fully training. And generally speaking, high rep stuff is a hypertrophy, or, get your muscles bigger type of technique. And so is failure, because I got pretty close to failure during that set. So I was thinking, it may not happen anytime soon, but as something in the future to potentially add into my routine, is specifically add something like what they call AMRAP sets, which stands for as many reps as possible. So you get some of that failure type stimulus and that high rep stimulus to help grow your muscles, because I'm wondering if that soreness tells me that I could potentially get better by training that style as well. So that's all the stuff I wanted to cover from Cycle 1. Something to note for Cycle 2 coming up, we're going to make a change in terms of volume. I actually worked out the algebra one day, looking at if you do 6 sets of 6 at 70, how how many sets of 4 for 80% and how many sets of 2 at 90% do you have to do in order to equate the volume between all three. And as it turns out, when you do 6x6 at 70, 80% ends up being 8 sets of 4, so you only have to get up to like 32 total reps as opposed to the 24 that I'm doing currently for 80%. And for 90%, you have to get up to like 28 total reps, so it's like 14 sets of 2. The change I'm going to make now is going to add 2 sets to the 90% workouts. We're going to see how that goes. Hopefully that doesn't, make my body explode. And the idea will be eventually to slowly creep both the 90 and the 80 up to those targets in order to equate the volume between all three workouts. Oh, while we're on the subject of changes, something I am not changing is my current deadlift schedule. I'm going to continue doing the 6x5 twice a week, pushing that up about 10 pounds a week like I've been doing. And it's hump day! You're welcome! Because that seems to have served me well going into the previous, maxing session, doing that, even though I was only working with like 165, I think was the highest I got in cycle 1. I still hit a 330 deadlift. So I'm going to just keep pushing that up until that gets closer to like 70% of my max, and then possibly make a change then. Hey, I want to tell you a quick fun story about the cold that I forgot when I was talking about the cold earlier. One thing that is an issue is that, do you know the old story about like if you lick the flagpole in the winter, like your tongue will freeze to it? So kind of in a similar fashion, my barbell will get so cold that when you can kind of see it here. When I grab the bar on benches, I tuck my thumb under and then wrap my fingers around my thumb. And then when I squeeze the bar real hard, I kind of mash my thumb into the bar. Well, the bar is so cold that one thing I've been noticing recently is that my thumbs will go numb. And it's kind of annoying because, it's completely numb and you can't really use it later on. So that's one of those downsides of the cold. But most of the things with the cold, I think, are upside. Yeah, so with this week being a 70% and 80% week, as you know, this is my highest volume week. And we're actually going to be comparing in a moment here with week 2, because I think under normal circumstances, week 5 would have been the next 70, 80 week, but I've had that as a taper and test week. And I also added a line in my volume numbers to track my volume for the year. So I take each week's total volume and just add it up and see what it comes to. And you're going to see in a moment that right now I'm at like 667,000 pounds for the year, which is pretty cool. But I don't intend to actually add a goal to my goals list. But I am kind of thinking, maybe I can get to like 5 million pounds this year. That'd be pretty sweet, huh? In the 2016 goals update, the only thing I missed this week was Saturday. I didn't warm up. I felt like, I shouldn't say felt like, I thought that if I didn't get started with the lifting immediately, that I might run out of gas, because that was the day I had just gotten back from the airport. So that's the only thing I missed this week. Otherwise, abs, warm-ups, stretching, all that good stuff. And finally, the metabolic update for this week. A couple issues here. One is the actual. This is actually based on 6 days because one of the days I was still abroad and did not actually count like the way I normally like to. So I just kind of dealt with it. I may actually get into the details of how I dealt with that in the next video. Weight is a bit up, as you notice. Probably had more salt while I was away. I definitely had less fiber, so my eyes were probably a little darker brown than usual. I would be surprised if that does not come back down now that I'm back on my regular diet stuff. So anyway, we're going up to 2780 calories next week. Should be delicious, and wherever you are, hope you're having a great week. I will see you next time. Take care.